Why is play so important in our lives? Do we shelter our kids too much? Is it ever too old to play? Kia ora. I'm Professor Scott Duncan from AUT's School of Sport, Exercise and Health. Welcome to Play Matters. So what is playing? What a great way to start. Playing is something that we do that is purely enjoyable, it's self-directed, and it really has no other purpose than having fun. It could be going for a walk, it could be kicking a ball around, it could be playing with toys, it could be anything really, as long as it's fun. It's one of those things that we as humans really need to do, and if we get too busy where it doesn't become part of our lives, often we find it really means we haven't enjoyed the day properly. So one of my big focuses in the work I do is trying to make sure people prioritize even just a sliver of time for play during the day. Yeah, the next question is, how important is play in our daily lives? It's a really good question because it's often one we don't think about. Play is something that we obviously did when we were kids. We did it almost every day. But as we become adults, we find that there really isn't time to play, nor is there really the social expectation to play. And yet when we do play, we always find it fun. I mean, who doesn't enjoy play? So it's really important in this day and age, when there's so many things going on, for us to sometimes slow down, just find a little bit of time for something really silly, stupid, and fun. That's what play is, and I think that's what we need to build back into our lives. Yeah, and following on from that question, how often should we play? Another really great question. I really think the answer is every day. It should be every day. And I know that sounds in this day and age sometimes unrealistic, but if you can find some time just to put aside to do a little bit of play, a little bit of fun, a little bit of silliness, it really does mean that day is uplifted and you don't feel bogged down so much by all the other external pressures and things that happen in your life. Play is a great way of breaking out of that monotony, and I really recommend, if you can, try and do something playful every day. And this question sounds like it's come from a parent. Is structured play better for kids, or should we let them run wild? Now, it's a difficult question to answer because obviously a bit of wildness in childhood is wonderful for kids, but structured play is also quite good as well. So it's all about that balance. We want kids to have some structure in their lives. Sport's a good example of that. But we also need them to be able to be kids. And that means running wild a little bit and doing things sometimes out of the side of their parents, sometimes a little bit against the rules, something where they can challenge things, they can try things differently. Those are the things that really build memories and also build the ability for kids to challenge themselves and to learn their boundaries. Sometimes accidents happen. Yes, that is a part of being a child, but we do need to let them appreciate the fact that they have their own autonomy, they have their own skills that they can develop, and they really need to do that in their own way. So yeah, a big part of what I do also is trying to allow kids that chance to be wild. And this question is about Lego. Why is Lego so beloved? Yeah, Lego's an amazing toy, an amazing thing to do. I mean, it creates a sense of real flow and focus on one thing. And I think there's two real ways to utilize Lego. One is to follow the instructions and to create something which is designed, which can be really useful to sort of sit and focus and do one thing. But then the other great part of Lego is that you can go freeform. You can take different parts of Lego, you can make different things you want, and that's really great for creativity, just imagination. And so the great thing about Lego is you can do either one. In fact, you can do both at the same time if you want to. It's a great way of really sitting down and focusing and doing something for yourself. Okay, another slightly controversial question. Are indoor and outdoor play equally good? Personally, I think you can't go past outdoor play. Not only just for children, but for adults. Being able to engage with nature, being in the outdoors, feeling that grass between your toes, there's nothing that quite beats that for the human experience. Indoor play is really good too, and it's valuable, and there's times when you need to have indoor play. But we can't forget that probably in this day and age, kids are experiencing less outdoor play than they ever have before. Don't think that's a great thing. I think we need to think about how we raise our kids and allow them to experience the outdoors in a way that's autonomous, free, and fun, and just let them be kids. And related to that question, are we too protective of kids these days? We've done surveys on this, actually nationwide surveys on parental perceptions of risk and their tolerance of risk in play. And the short answer is yes, we are overprotective of kids these days. That's not to say every parent is. Some parents are wonderful in this space. But as a society, we have become very protective of our children for good reason. We really love them. We want them to grow strong and healthy. But in order for them to grow strong and healthy, sometimes we've got to let them off the leash. Sometimes they've got to run and do their own thing. Sometimes they're going to be out of our sight. It's a hard thing to do as a parent. I have 3 kids. I know all about it. But sometimes you've just got to let them go, and that really will allow them to grow. It'll allow them to form those memories as well of childhood that was lived well. When we think back at our memories, it's often of times we were out playing. We went out and came back at dusk, that sort of thing. We were forming our own adventures, finding our own places. Those are the adventures we want our kids to experience. So when we protect them too much, while we're trying to do it for a good reason, often it has negative outcomes. Should playgrounds be mandatory in new housing developments? That's a really good question. I absolutely think so. There's a lot of building going on at the moment around New Zealand, a lot of new housing developments. And the great thing about those developments is when they have a hub. And that might be a school, it might be some other community centre, but also playgrounds are great for bringing people together. Not only is it great for the kids to have somewhere to play, obviously, but the parents come together and talk and meet each other. Dogs play around, it's a real way of getting communities together and becoming connected. So especially in new communities, when a lot of people are coming in from different areas, I think it's really important to have these places in urban design that act as the glue for people, and play is a wonderful way of doing that. This is an interesting question. What is my personal favourite type of play? I did think about this actually a few weeks ago, and I think some of the best experiences I've ever had are with my children, but also around water. I love doing things in the water. It could be body surfing, it could be jumping off rocks, it could be swimming in lakes, just anything where I'm in water with my kids. I just find amazing. The one thing about also having kids is you have the license to be a bit silly. And that's one of the things I really noticed last time we were jumping off 3-story high rocks to big stormy oceans, is that you can't really get away with that as much as when you're an adult, unless you've got kids around you. And it was really fun and awesome. And those are the things I like, the slightly wild side of things, particularly when there's a little bit of danger, a little bit of risk, and a lot of laughing. Oh, this is an excellent question. Why is play good for our mental health? I think most people would sort of understand that intuitively, that it's good for us, it makes us feel better. But I think the thing, when you really think about it, is it just brings you to the present. We often live our lives doing other people's jobs, trying to keep up, often failing to keep up. And what play does is it just brings you right down to the present, where you're focusing on something just for you, something that's just fun. No other reason than just to be fun. And those little touch points in a day, if you can add up enough of them, across the course of a day, across the course of a week, you look back at your week and you'll think, actually, I didn't mind this week. I had quite a bit of fun. There were some good parts in there. When you avoid that, or you forget about it, you come to the end of the week and think, man, that was a slog. Oh, I've got another one coming up. That's why for us, I guess we have to, in this day and age, be proactive about planning these touch points where we can do things for ourselves. It doesn't necessarily have to be play. It can be something else. It could be something where you do some meditation, or something where you're mindful. But play is also a really awesome way just to sort of forget about the world for a bit, look after yourself, and potentially do something fun with others. Oh, I love this question. Does online gaming count as play? Well, the short answer is yes, it does. I mean, it is a form of play. It's not necessarily always the best play. I mean, outdoor play is a great thing for kids, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with online gaming. It's part of the world. It can be fun. As with most things, it's really about moderation. And I think sometimes when children in particular become so obsessed with online gaming that they spend most of their time doing it, it just displaces time that could be used for other really fun things and other things where they're with people. We shouldn't treat online gaming as the enemy. I think it's there, and it can be really useful and really fun. We just have to be careful that there's other things going on in kids' lives so that they achieve that balance that they need. Here's a question that I find interesting. Can you get too old to play? No. Next question. What's a good sort of play for pensioners? Well, play in older adults is really, really fun and important. It's a great way to connect with others, and I think that's one of the common elements of play in older adults, is that it's usually with other people. And it can be walking, it can be gardening, it can be just playing cards, it can be all sorts of things, but often it's that interaction that's really important. Older adults love, I think, to form communities, and I think they need to stay active and they need to stay engaged with other people. And play is a really good way of doing that. Doing things just for fun at that particular point in your life, it's an invaluable thing to do. So how can we be more playful in our everyday lives? It's a good question, and it really is a hard one to answer for every single person because everyone has their own individual situation. But one thing I guess that might apply to all of us is that sometimes we actually have to stop and think and be proactive about it. It sounds almost counterintuitive, but planning for play may actually mean it happens. If we expect it to happen, often it won't. So one of the things I do advise people when we talk about play is to stop, think about your week that's coming up, and look at some touch points in there where you can just take some time and do something silly. You can do something funny. You can joke around. You can play with someone. Those touch points, I think, sometimes need to be planned in your life. Eventually, they may become habits, and it just happens by accident. But for people who aren't used to this, often it's something you really do have to plan ahead for. But I promise you, if you do, you'll have a better week than if you didn't. And is how adults play any different to how kids play? Yes, there are some differences. Obviously, kids have a broader range of things they can do and get away with than adults can. But the thing I find really interesting is that adults could do a lot more than we do. And there is this pressure from other adults to be a little bit sensible and to grow up and not be a child anymore. And what we try and advocate for is to find your inner child, foster that inner child, and let them out every now and again. There's nothing wrong with being silly. Being silly is amazing. It's fun. It just keeps you happy. It just keeps you vibrant. It's really for the society around you that sort of suggests that maybe that isn't the right thing to do. And what we'd like to do is create an environment or a society where that changes and that actually becomes socially acceptable to do some silly things. But one thing I would say, if you do have your own children, is there's one place that's socially acceptable to be silly, and that's playing with your kids. So if you can get out and about with them and muck around with them, be as silly as you like, and you shouldn't get too many judges. And this question asks, I spend a fortune on games, toys, puzzles to encourage my kids to play. Are there free alternatives that are just as good? Great question, and yes, there are. The great thing about being a kid is that you find fun in things that aren't meant to be fun. If you put a pile of bricks, a rope, and a tarpaulin outside and let your child go for it, chances are they'll find something to do with that stuff that's even more fun than a really expensive toy, because it's not really meant to be used that way. It's part of the excitement of being a kid, finding possibilities in things. So that's one of the things we recommend in early childhood centres and schools, is to create these unstructured play environments. The biggest challenge we come across is that for adults, it looks messy, but for kids, it looks amazing. So if you create a messy backyard, it may look not so nice for the neighbours, but for the kids, it will look amazing. There's all sorts of things you can do in those spaces with the permission to do so. Building huts out of cardboard boxes, building walls out of bricks, building nets and other things out of bracken. There's so many things you can do with imagination, and it's really those memories that are formed in those types of play. And this question asks, what does an ideal day look like? Another really great question. And I think it's about chasing that Goldilocks day, the day where everything is just right. To do that, you need to inject some fun. There's no way of having this Goldilocks day unless you're having some fun. Play is great for that. If you can bring a bit of play into a day, yes, you'll have work, you still have emails, you still have other things you have to do. But on top of that, if you can build some of your own time and realize you've experienced some of your own time in that day, it becomes one of those days you actually look back on with fondness. And if you can string enough of those days together and have more of those than the bad days, you look back at your life and think, hey, that was a life worth living. Thanks for watching Play Matters. I hope it's increased your understanding of why play is so important to our health and well-being.